back to the May 9th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. Before we continue, I would like to apologize to the public and the staff for us being 30 minutes late. I want to remind everyone to ensure that their wireless communication devices are turned off to avoid any technical interference with the microphones and taping of the meeting. A call-in line has been established for the community to hear the meeting interpreted live in Spanish. The number to call in is 508-924-5155. Board Member Madeline LaSallier Frazier, please announce in Spanish.
Buenas noches. Se ha establecido una línea telefónica para que la comunidad pueda llamar y tenga acceso a interpretación en español en vivo. El número a llamar es el 508-924-5155. El número a llamar es el 508-924-5155.
Thank you. For those who are not able to observe now, the meeting is being recorded and can be accessed on the Prince George's County YouTube channel for later viewing. Lastly, for recording purposes, I would also like to remind all board members to turn on their microphones when speaking. Board Member Shayla Adams Stafford, will you please lead us in the board prayer and pledge of allegiance?
Thank you. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, steer us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Amen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board members, I needed to update the agenda to include the transportation implementation update. So now at this time, the motion is to accept the agenda as amended for the May 9, 2024 Prince George's County Board of Education meeting.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Mrs. LaSallier Frazier,
Aye.
Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. There are 11 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to adopt the agenda has been adopted. The motion to approve the March 21st, 2024 board meeting, the April 11th, 2024 board work session, and the April 25th, 2024 board meeting minutes.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Mrs. LaSallier Frazier,
Aye.
Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Z. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes, Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. There are 11 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The May 9, 2024 Prince George's Board of Education, the March 21st, 2024 board meeting and the April 11, 2024 board meetings work session, and the April 25th, 2024 board meeting minutes are adopted. At this time, we will have our news break. 2024 Prince George's County Annual Film Festival. Do we have a news break?
PGCPS Online Campus! Potomac High School!
Dozens of high school students were turning green with enthusiasm recently as they met at the Bladensburg Waterfront Park for their annual Student Environment Alliance Summit. Along the banks of the Anacostia River and atop it on a boat, the students spent the day learning more about the environment they loved and finding ways to safeguard it for the future.
Yeah, so this is the Student Environmental Alliance Summit, and this is the third year of sort of the newer iteration of it, but it's actually been going on for 7 years. We have everything from the bike ride, which is new this year. We want them to see the outdoors as a space where we can learn and also have fun. To all the way at the other end of the park, we have birding this year.
The bird banding activity, one of 6 in the day's rotation, was a somber reminder that birds, like Maryland's own orioles, often collide with man-made hazards.
The Baltimore Oriole, same story. Central America is where it spends its winter, traveled up here only to strike a window. This one has actually struck a window in Prince George's County.
To grow native plants, students saw that all it takes is some potting soil and lots of patience.
This is our first station, and I really got interested in because I help my mom in her own garden, so planting is like something I enjoy. So
You have a green thumb, do you?
I would say so.
I've done like tree planting to help the Chesapeake Bay, and right around my school we've done like tree planting, which I found was so exciting. Like I've done it multiple times with the tree planting because I just think it's so exciting.
Throughout the day, there were tree trunks to measure, formidable-looking teeth to touch, electric bicycles to ride, it's somewhat wobbly, and a river to appreciate.
So far, I got to go on the boat ride, and
How was that?
it was really nice. It was so amazing. I was so excited to see all like the animals and stuff. There is ducks and turtles. There were so many turtles. It was so cool.
While undeniably having fun, the summiteers never lost sight of their goal of advocating for a cleaner, greener world.
Our goal is that they turn others green. So we have student representatives from their school, they're environmental leaders, and our goal here is to empower them, give them the information and the resources to go back to their schools and communities and spread the environmental message.
With no time to waste, one student already has his pedal to the metal.
I'm here to, not just identify problems, but also find solutions and get things done.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you to Chief Patel and the Communications Department for this great presentation. At this time, we will have a community shout out. The chair recognizes Vice Chair Lolita Walker.
Thank you so much. Tonight, I have the amazing privilege of awarding 2 scholars, of course, from District 9, for the community shout-outs. The community shout-outs is really a recognition that's intended to share a spotlight on our scholars and community members who sometimes go unnoticed. A huge congratulations to the 84 students who submitted their logos for our PGCPS Social Emotional Learning Logo Student Art Contest. Did you know that there was an amazing contest with all grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school, where we had 84 entries from students 10 entries advanced to the final round, and this was voted on by 164 SGA student representatives. First, I just simply want to say thank you. We're on the next slide. Thank you so much. And we're on the next slide. So we are ready to celebrate. Our first place winner, did I mention they're both from District 9? If I didn't, let me say it again. Okay. Our first place winner is Miss Nora Daka. She is from James Madison Middle School in 7th grade. Woo! And our second place winner is from Gwynn Park High School, my alma mater. I'm so excited. Miss Samada Griffin, and she's in the 12th grade. So excited. They are here, so I would love for you guys to stand. You all are going to come forward. We're on the next slide now because we want to show you how amazing this was. Not only do they have shirts with their logos on them, but this is going to be what is going to be highlighted across Prince George's County for our entire social, emotional, and learning program. So I want to say congratulations, Miss Nora, and on the next slide, we want to say congratulations to Miss Samadi. And come on up because we're going to take some pictures. Thank you. Woo! We're going to take one together, and then we're going to call each family up separately to take one with us as well. Ladies, let me give you your bags. Here you are. Here you are. Thank you so much. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you. Can we do them separately really quickly with their families? Families, come on up. Good. So let's do one at a time. All right, let's do you first. It's okay. Don't move on, don't move on. Let's bring the family up. We're super excited. Oh, your headphones, I know that's right. She said my picture lasts forever. Okay. Wait, but the SEL team, where are you at? Let's go. Come on, ladies. You guys did the work, right? Look, Aaron has the shirts on. We're gonna show both of the shirts as well. That's one of the logos, and then I'll show you guys a second. Can you get everybody? Okay, okay. Thank you. All right, let's get our next family up. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And this is I know it's your dad. Woo. No, we'll make sure you get pictures. Look, girl. Beautiful. That's you. It's her first time seeing a show. Thank you. Congratulations.
This is so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's give our artists another hand. That's talent. That's real talent. Now we will have the report of the chair. Bear with me, we have a lot of people to appreciate tonight. The month of May is an exciting time for Prince George's County Public Schools because it starts with our graduation ceremonies. Over 3,000 seniors will gather for college and career decision day to celebrate achievements and announce their post-high school plans. Our seniors have worked hard to achieve this momentous milestone. Walking across the stage to receive a high school diploma is a great accomplishment. Congratulations to you all, and keep pursuing your dreams, whether you're continuing your education or joining the workforce, the best is yet to come. While we are celebrating, we must take some time to honor all of our mothers. Although being a mother is frequently a thankless job, I don't think it's thankless because I'm a mother, but anyway, it is unquestionably a significant one. For the most part, we can credit mother's support and influence on our students' achievement. I want to wish all mothers, especially those in the audience and our administrators and teachers, a very happy Mother's Day. Lastly, but certainly not least, teacher appreciation. I am sure we can all remember that one teacher who left a mark on our hearts. May 6th through 10th, 2024 is dedicated to teachers. During that week, we make an extra effort to appreciate them for all they do. To me, our teachers deserve more than a week of appreciation. They deserve a lifetime. There is a great Chinese proverb, give me a fish and I eat for a day. Teach me to fish and I will eat for a lifetime. This is what our teachers do. They give us an education, they give our students an education that carries them through their lives. So as we start each day, let's continue to appreciate, applaud, and support our teachers for the hard work, dedication, and commitment. Happy appreciation to all teachers in the Prince George's County Public Schools System. In addition to the celebration of our teachers, I would like to extend sincerest congratulations to Dr. Daisy Nichols here, and Frederick Douglass High School, recipients of the 2024 Charles Drew Memorial Scholarship Fund School of the Year Award for their exceptional academic standards, community engagement, and overall excellence. The School of the Year Award serves as a testament to the collective efforts and unwavering commitment exhibited by every facet of your school community, from administrators to faculty, staff, students, and parents alike. Congratulations. Oh, and it's District 9. The chair now recognizes Board Member Rain Rivera Forbes with a point of special privilege.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rain Rivera Forbes, and I am the 43rd student member of the Prince George's County Board of Education. If you don't know, I am a senior at Duval High School, which means very, very soon I will be taking my leave from the board and passing on the torch of legacy. So without further ado, I want to highlight someone very special here tonight among the crowd. You may have seen him, you may have met him, you may have even watched his debate recently. It is Jamal J. Jongo, our next student member of the Prince George's County Board of Education. Please stand and give him an applause.
Thank you.
I have known Jamal for 3 years now. He has served on my advisory council for 1 year, and Alvaro, the former student member of the board's advisory council, for 2, so I know he will do very great in the role, and I can't wait to see what he does. Congratulations again, Jamal.
Thank you, and congratulations, Jamal, and we look forward to working with you.
I also forgot to add, he goes to Frederick Douglass High School. Just
Thank you. At this time, the chair recognizes Board Member Adam Stafford with a point of special privilege.
Thank you. I'd like to just note that the board, for some time, has been revisiting the implementation of the Disability Issues Advisory Board, and so Board Member Rout and I have had an opportunity to review what the board already has enacted, and the board chair has asked us to come back with some steps to ensure that that oversight function of our board is up and running properly. And so here are the steps that we plan to take to ensure that the Disability Issues Advisory Board is up and running properly. We'll be advertising the opportunity for community members to serve on the board through our board website, which will outline the role, responsibilities, and qualifications for interested applicants. The application submission will be for August 15th of this year. Applicants can submit their resumes along with any other required documents. We'll engage in a selection process where board members will review the applications from their respective districts, and board members will nominate candidates from their district to serve on the Disability Issues Advisory Board. Then the board will vote will convene to vote on the final composition of the advisory board. This will ensure transparency and fairness in the voting process and adherence to our existing policy relating to governance. So the timeline is that on May 15th, we'll begin advertising and outreach. By August 15th will be the deadline for applications, and then post-elections in December, the final voting will take place. And once the Disability Issues Advisory Board members are selected, we'll facilitate their integration into the existing board structure in our other advisory boards, such as our ethics panel, our ethics advisory board, our parent community advisory board as well. So by following this plan, we believe that we can ensure a fair and efficient process for filling the seats on this very crucial board and function of the PGCPS Board of Education. Thank you so much.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to call for a moment of silence as we honor the memory of the following Prince George's County staff, family, and community members. Doyle Neiman, former District 3 Board of Education member and State Delegate District 47. Mickey T. Ward, Crisis Intervention Resource Teacher, Special Education Office. Zanita F. Lucas, Resource Teacher, William Packer Elementary School. Letitia Hinton, Substitute Teacher, Sasser Administration Building. Lindsay Carlson, Teacher, Crossland High School. Let's pause for a minute, please. Thank you. Let's continue to keep these families in our thoughts and prayers. We will now have the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, board members and community. I'd like to first of all just kind of reiterate what Chair Mickens-Murray said earlier in reference to the appreciation of our teachers. While it's a short period of time that's set up on the calendar, it doesn't negate the time and assistance that our teachers provide to our students in our community on a daily basis. We've provided several different activities, giveaways over the course of the last week or so, just to show our appreciation, but a simple thank you to our wonderful educators and what they do on a daily basis to ensure that our students are ready for the next step in their journey. Over the course of the last week, on May the 4th, to be specific, we hosted our inaugural virtual Pride Summit, where roughly 300 students, staff, community members participated. We included SGA student leaders to really assist with the planning process that they chose, which the theme this year was Pride in Progress. As a result, the county is investing into inviting a number of PGCPS students and LGBTQIA plus allies to a Pride lunch next month. Now, we all know it's graduation season, and last night we celebrated more than 50 high school valedictorians and salutatorians from across PGCPS. As graduation approaches next week, again, I said next week, we want to graduate, of course, we want to congratulate our graduating seniors for all of the work that they focused on in their journey, especially our board member, student board member, Rain Rivera Ford. Now, partnership with Harvard is something that you all have heard a little bit about. This year, we partnered with doctoral students from Harvard University to really provide strategic support to PGCPS across 4 specific areas. One of those areas is CTE, another is human resources, artificial intelligence, and in our innovation zone as well. Just last week, we were invited to the campus at Harvard to hear each group's research and recommendations alongside the dean of the college, faculty, staff, and other graduating students. We look forward to digging in even deeper into the ideas and best practices that they've shared, and we'll plan to implement some of those as it makes sense for PGCPS. Madam Chair, that concludes my update.
Thank you so much. Superintendent, are you going to address the MOU now, or are you doing it later in the?
It's, I believe, under 2, we can do it now if that's.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. Thank you, since we're doing something different.
Absolutely. I'd like to call to the microphone Jason Washington to provide some updates in reference to that. Mr. Washington?
Thank you so much. Thank you so many for the time, board members. The Memorandum of Understanding, which is the requirement under the Build to Learn Act that requires a 4-party MOU between Maryland Stadium Authority, the Interagency Commission on School Construction, Prince George's County, and Prince George's County Public Schools, is still under negotiation. There have been updates that really are tied to the statutory change that was passed this past legislative session in terms of payment obligations that required a rewriting of the Memorandum of Understanding that has now opened up a few other state policy issues, specifically around funding that are being addressed by Maryland Stadium Authority, the Interagency Commission on School Construction, and Prince George's County, as they are now obligated to fulfill the local match. And so right now, issues specifically pertaining to interest income that could increase the overall costs to the county, as well as the ability of payment disbursements from VLT funds to Maryland Stadium Authority. All of these are issues that are being worked out at the state level, and we hope that, and we've been told that they're working through that and expect to resolve these issues shortly, at which point we would need the board approval, as that is, we're one of the required, or you all are one of the required signatories to that Memorandum of Understanding to initiate state funding for Phase 2.
Thank you, Mr. Washington, and I see a board member has a question, and I think a few board members have questions. So I just need the public to understand that this is important for us not only to get the communication from the administration around this MOU, but also to help you, community, understand where we are in this process. And before I go to questions, Mr. Washington, is there a drop-dead date when this board must take an action on this MOU?
Right now, we've been advised prior to the Interagency Commission's June 13th meeting.
June 13th?
June 13th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we will entertain questions from board members, and I see Board Member Rout and then Board Member Adam Stafford.
Thank you so much, Mr. Washington, for sharing this important information. Do have 2 follow-up questions. And maybe the superintendent will be able to help us. Has the county council and the county executive been provided this level of information as it relates to the potential delays? And what was their response? My second question is, what is the risk that we are up against if we do not meet that deadline? And my third question is, do we feel that we have some justification to request the IAC for an extension or anything, and then what would that cost us? Thank you.
This information has been shared with OMB, as they are now responsible for the overall obligation, payment obligation under the P3. And their response has been, they're engaging the state and through the model that we've worked out to make it affordable. And so they are very focused on it. The risk is immense if we don't get to an MOU agreement. We forfeit the state's over $800 million contribution for these next 8 schools. And so every entity that's involved understands that, and we're working to resolve those issues. There is no statutory drop dead date. We do, however, have a scheduled drop dead date for us. We have committed to deliver these schools starting in 2026. The developer schedule begins August 15th. 2024. And so we have an artificial timeline, because if we miss that date, we're now starting to delay schools, and that will have a waterfall effect on our plan for student movement, et cetera. So those would be the biggest impacts. The cost specifically, we have negotiated as part of the exclusive negotiating agreement period with the developer for what is known as a breakage fee. So if we were not to do the deal and cancel the deal, we are required to pay $4 million of breakage, which is probably less than 20% of the money that they've expended thus far. And so any delay, I would say, would probably increase that breakage fee by about approximately $1 million. The risk of not agreeing to that, if we needed to, is that they would go pencils down, which would actually slow down the project, because they are working at risk moving the design forward now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Adam Stafford.
Thank you. Mr. Washington, in a previous OBAFA meeting, you had mentioned that we received like an extension on the negotiation and the drop dead deadline, and then that would not affect when we actually began the work in schools this fall. What changed? Because I noticed this is like 17 days prior to the original deadline that was set. So I'm just wondering what's changed.
So what changed is risk. So the new statute removed the statutory deadline. So there was a statutory deadline in last year's legislation of June 30th, 2024. This statutory change eliminated the drop dead date, because we wanted to give ourselves some room to possibly take advantage of interest rate reductions or anything else to make it more affordable. But that still did not stop us from trying to close as quickly as possible, because these schools, as I said before, we have a schedule. So there is no statutory drop dead date. This is our date to deliver the schools as promised to the school district. And so that is the change, but there is no drop dead date that we must finish this or we forfeit state money. The problem now becomes that if we push this out past the IAC's meeting in June, we run the risk of compounding delays because of approval. They have a financial closing structure where it's a 2-step process. So where they actually need 30 days, the statute requires the IAC to approve the contract. So after the MOU, the IAC will then have to call another board meeting. We're pushing very hard to make it the same day. They would have to call their own commission back to approve the project agreement. The financing requires 30 days because it's a public offering, a taxable bond public offering, to close. And therefore, we are losing roughly 30 days of time by each delay that we have approving the MOU and moving forward with the project.
So if I'm just understanding, essentially, the deadline and the the stipulations around this really do depend on the IAC's final meeting of the year. So can we build this into future timelines? 'Cause we were just under the impression all year that we had a bit more time, and then that time was going to be extended. And now hearing this, it just seems as though really it's based on the IAC's final meeting of the year.
It's based on our need to close this deal because, as I just mentioned, the developer and all of this has been geared around closing. We had what was known as an 8-month. When we came before you in September, you all approved an 8-month exclusive negotiating agreement period for us to get all of this done, which set up for closing at June 30th, 2024. And so what the legislature allowed us to do was, if we saw that there was opportunity to get additional interest rate reductions or we needed additional time, they gave that to us. But at no point were we planning to move this closing any further into the summer, simply because of the schedule that we needed to meet. And that's where we were saying that there was no change in schedule. We've always made it clear that our plan was to close early this summer, and now we are looking at possibly later in the summer. And that has been the change. There's been no change in our identified closing timeline.
Are you okay, Board Member Adam Stafford? Any other questions from any other board members? If not, I have a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
The board received an email today that says on the second page, the second paragraph, according to the statute, the IAC has final approval of the project agreement and in turn is requiring. Now, that's the word for me. So you tell me what requiring means to you, because there's, what someone wrote from the administration is to execute the final MOU before June 13th. And what we need to know as a board, what are we obligated to do?
The IAC is taking the position that as the final approver of the contract, they need to be assured that every other entity is in agreement with the MOU. The MOU is, for all intents and purposes, the promissory note that says that the county and the state are obligated to pay the amount of the availability payment. To take a step back, the memorandum of understanding, so everybody is clear, has 3 major purposes. It lays out cost responsibilities. So right now we had to rewrite it because of the statute that took Prince George's County Public Schools out. We are no longer a payer into this process. Number 2, it provides the governance structure that is replicated of Phase 1. The governance structure is the superintendent, the chair of the county council, and the county executive. It's a 3-party governance structure that governs the agreement, makes any amendments, etc. The final piece of the MOU is the performance. What reports Prince George's County is supposed to provide to the state, the role that the state plays. So there are required 5-year and 10-year cost comparisons and other type of requirements in the Memorandum of Understanding. That is what that document is. That document justifies and is our proof that the state and the county are committed to paying for this transaction for the next 30 years. And so that's what the MOU is for. And so it is similar, and once that is signed, we then provide that to the developer. The developer then goes out, and that's how they get their financing. This is their note to say, we have money to pay this back. And that is why the MOU is crucial. The IAC is taking the position that as the steward of the state's money, they need to be affirmed that Maryland Stadium Authority is in agreement with the MOU, Prince George's County is in agreement with the MOU, and Prince George's County Public Schools. And so their belief would be that all of that is enacted before they meet to ratify the MOU.
Okay, then I have 2 asks.
Yes, ma'am.
1, The board needs an updated email from you to let us know if the June 13th date is not a date that we must adhere to as a board for getting it signed, then you need to help us, Superintendent House, to see specifically, because what I do not want is a repeat that Prince George's County School System is not in agreement with the county council and the county executive, thank you. I do not want a repeat of that, and I don't think any of these board members want a repeat of that. So I'm looking at what is our obligation, and are we going to meet it definitively?
We'll provide that.
Okay, and you will provide it by when?
We can provide,
By when?
I defer to the
Remember, this is May 9th, so I'm anxious.
We can provide it by next week.
By next week. Okay, so we'll say by next Thursday, May 16th.
Yes.
Okay. And I see one other question from a board member, second round, Ms. Rout. Board member Rout.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to just understand the timeline of when things changed. As my chair stated, that we were notified today. So I just wanted to understand the timeline of when we knew that we may not be able to make the June deadline. And what is our plan to get us to the June 13th date?
There is some confusion. This was never about making the June 13th deadline. This is saying there is no other board meeting between now and June 13th. This was never a question of timing. This was making sure you had an opportunity to act upon it before the IAC had their meeting. We've always made it clear the MOU was done until the legislation changed. So once the legislation changed, we basically became the arm of the county and OMB. And so they had to approve the financing structure. They had to approve all of the things that we have been working through. And so for your earlier question, that's the relationship that's been. Where we are right now, those are everyone and every entity is working under the same timeline. What I'm saying is that not the misunderstandings, the alignment around whether or not the state will allow the county to utilize interest income, which will reduce the cost of this project $50 million. That's a state policy issue that the comptroller has to opine on. That has nothing to do with any of the parties. Number two, as it relates to we have in there too, because a concern of the board on all of our projects is escalating cost.
Yeah.
We have put in there a contingency risk fund. The state believes that it's just a money grab by Prince George's County Public Schools. And so now they need to figure out whether or not to allow us, which we do on every other school construction project, to put in a contingency.
So are they changing the marker? That's what it sounds like.
We are working through the fact that everyone has different viewpoints on what we need to provide. But what we have made clear is that it is our goal to get this done. Our children are depending on these schools.
Yeah, we need these schools.
And so that is our focus, but I do want to make it very clear to everyone, it's not a question that we were going to miss a deadline. This is us making sure that they can't say we missed a deadline, and therefore they cannot give us the funding that we need for the schools.
Very fine. Thank you.
Vice Chair Walker.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Washington. I know we have detailed questions, but this is super important. The question that I have is, what I see is the signatories are, I'm trying to look for my line, the signatories are 3 that you've outlined today, MSA, the county, and PGCPS for signatories. My question is...
There's one more, in the IAC. It's a 4 point, it should be
Yeah,
4.
Yep, before it goes to the IAC, yes, thank you. My question is it 1, 2, 3, and then 4, or all three sign simultaneously and irrespective of each other, and then it goes for June 13th. Because the way I'm reading it, please correct me if I'm wrong, is this June 13th commission date is when the vote is there. Therefore, the three entities prior need to make sure all their signatures are complete before it goes there, okay?
Correct.
So what I'm looking at is it that PGCPS goes first, then, or everybody is talking and aligning, and then it goes there? If you can help me with that.
It's the latter. So it's really based upon when each entity has their next meeting. So
Has their
that's,
what?
has their next
Oh, okay.
commission meeting. So MSA, for instance, their next commission meeting is the week, I believe, of May 27th. The county council, talking to Chair Ivy, they are trying to figure out when they would put it on their agenda to get it done by the, so this is why we're bringing it up, is to make sure, to your point, we don't need to move first. It's not that. It's that we all need to have ratified it prior to the commission's meeting, because what IAC does not want is, if we approve it, how do we know everybody else is going to approve it? So that's that's really where we are with that process. And since they have final approval of the project agreement, they have the next step.
Thank you. I'm not so much worried about us being first and finest, not
Okay.
so much. It's more so about ensuring that we are clear and understand what's required of us for signatures before the June 13th date, and then making sure that everybody's talking. When I say everybody, I mean the administration, so you, plus the county council, plus MSA, and that we're aligned as it moves forward in the county exec. Yeah.
And we met as with the
A
county
collective.
council, MSA, IAC, we met last Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
We are hoping, and we're waiting hopefully for an invitation to meet tomorrow. And the meeting last Wednesday is what raised the financial issues. Like, so we met with the expectation that we were going to be done. And then that's when it was provided to us that MSA had to go back and look at some stuff. IAC had to go back and look at some stuff. Prince George's County came because we had hoped to put it on this agenda
Yeah.
to show, hey, we're ready to go.
Yes.
And so that's how we ended up there. But all of our meetings are four-party, so.
Thank you so much. I'm ready to vote.
We're not voting. We are not voting on this. This is a discussion for clarification. But what we're trying to do, Mr. Washington and Superintendent House, is for this board to be on the same page that you are, and so that we all understand the same thing. Because we don't want to be in the press ever again, where this board and the county council and the county exec are not in agreement.
Yeah, I think there's some misunderstanding. There have been consistent communication, consistent meetings.
Okay.
And folks are on the same page.
Okay.
So we feel good about, the process and where we are now. We'll get there.
Okay, I'm reassured. Board members, I hope you are too. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent House and Mr. Washington. Let's move forward with, what number am I on? She's supposed to keep up. I think I'm on outcomes and outputs. Okay. Academic Achievement Committee, the chair recognizes Board Member Dr. Zipporah Miller, the Academic Achievement Committee, for the committee's outcomes and outputs.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Is my mic on? Yes. So, since September 2023, the Academic Achievement Committee has convened monthly to delve into a range of topics outlined in the Academic Achievement Committee work plan for the school year 2023-2024. I would like to first begin by introducing the members of the committee. Ms. Pamela Boozer Strother, District 3, and also serving as a vice chair for the committee. Brandon Jackson, District 6, Madeline Lasalle Frazier, District 8, and David Murray, District 1. Since September 2023 to December 2023, the committee has completed or achieved the following. We discussed and reviewed the existing assessment data on mathematics interventions and programs and the utilization of classroom, district, and external measures that assisted in the identification of tutoring and intervention support for students. We conducted a thorough review of data for the school year 2024 conducted a thorough data review of the school year 2024 equity systemic implementation, focusing on Black and Latino boys. We also focused on strategies to enhance culture and climate through social emotional learning. Finally, we analyzed comprehensive data on letter grade distribution across transitional grade levels for school year 2023 to school year 2024. We covered the following areas: reading, English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. I'm glad to announce that positive trends were observed in student performance. From January 2024 to April 2024, the committee reviewed the following. We reviewed the K-12 math interventions and programming, this time from the school-based perspective. We reviewed the Equity Dashboard's role in action planning and its utilization of school-based equity leads to drive change in schools. We conducted a thorough review of the progress of the social emotional learning initiatives targeting school culture and climate improvement. Collaborations with universities such as the SEL Academy at the University of Maryland and the Learning Recovery Network have enhanced the social emotional learning training for Prince George's County Public Schools educators and administrators, and also certifying the teachers in this field. We also conducted a review of the middle of the year DIBELS 8 and the Benchmark 2 assessment data. DIBELS 8 had a 97% completion rate with strong engagement in monitoring K-3 students. Benchmark 2 assessments saw a high completion rates for math, 92%, and reading language arts, 93%. Early literacy scores improved, and there was a 7% increase in math performance from school year 2023 to school year 2024. The findings on the areas of need for targeted interventions indicated that whatever's already in place was boosting literacy and math outcomes for Prince George's County Public Schools students. In May 2024, our committee, which is this month, alongside with the administration, will collaborate with a roadmap of progress, leveraging insights gained through different data reviews and the feedback collected through the school year. We thank you again, and this concludes the report for the Academic Achievement Committee.
Thank you so much. At this time, the chair recognizes Board Member Jonathan Briggs, the Policy and Governance Committee Chair, for the committee's recommendations.
Thank you so much, Chair McIntyre. The Policy and Governance Committee met virtually and discussed the revisions to the following policies. Board Policy 4113, Community Involvement in the Principal Selection Process. This policy ensures that stakeholders are involved and participate in the principal selection process. Board Policy 6161, Core Curriculum Resources. This policy aims to articulate the board's expectations for establishing a structure for identifying appropriate textbooks and instructional materials and the accountability for these materials. Board Policy 6180.1, Evaluation and Selection of Classroom Instructional Materials, Rescission. This policy was developed with the need to properly select classroom instructional materials that implement and support the instructional programs of the Prince George's County Public Schools. And Board Policy 4111, Employment Recruitment, Rescission. This policy was developed to promote the best employment practices. All notices for employment opportunities in Prince George's County Public Schools issued hereafter are to include at least the following information: job title, entrance salary per year or salary range, a brief description of major duties, education, and experience required, including whether written or other test is required, the extent to which, if any, experience may be substituted for education and any special skills desired. The committee voted unanimously to forward the policies to the full board, recommending that they be approved to seek public comment. On behalf of the Policy and Governance Committee, I move that the policies be approved to seek public comment.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for policies BP 4113, BP 6161, BP 6180.1, BP 4111 be approved for public comment. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford?
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother?
Aye.
Mr. Briggs?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson? Mrs. LaSalle Frazier?
Aye.
Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. With 11 votes in the affirmative, the motion is adopted. Legislative updates. The chair recognizes Board Member Briggs for the legislative update.
Thank you so much, Chair Mickens Murray. So on behalf of the Policy and Governance Committee, I first want to take a moment to thank a few deeply engaged staff members who played a significant part in this year's advocacy efforts and successes. Ms. Robin Welsh, Director of Government Affairs, for her strategic guidance and tireless work. Ms. Shelby McRae, Administrator for Government Relations, who has been effectively an additional in-house lobbyist, advocating for our priorities with passion and expertise. And Ms. Cindy Adlian, Administrative Secretary for the Board Office, who has been an invaluable person, earning the title of MVP, a title that she should wear proudly. I want to thank these three ladies for their tireless efforts, endless regurgitation of complicated policy proposals in the State House, and skill in navigating political nuances. Combining all of these skills allowed us to have any semblance of impact in Annapolis. So first, thank you so much for that. And I think we have a slide deck, if we could pull that up. Thank you. Next slide, please. So today we'll be reviewing a number of bills that have passed the House and Senate and been signed by the governor. These bills are not just any bills, but the ones that align with our legislative platform priorities and advocacy, making them crucial for us to understand and discuss. Next slide. Thank you. So before diving in, I want to frame the purpose of our legislative platform and policy and advocacy efforts, which were to advocate for policies and administrative procedures that align with the interests of the PGCPS board and administration. This involved conducting research, formulating position statements, and effectively communicating these to policymakers to build relationships as trusted partners as much as we were pushing forward a shared agenda. Next slide, please. So this legislative session, 1,535 House and 1,193 Senate bills, including the state operating and capital budget bills, were introduced. Collectively, we monitored more than 200 plus of these bills, many of which became new laws and with significant impacts on public education funding and policy. Additionally, weekly, the Policy and Governance Committee and Government Relations team developed memos to chairs, vice chairs, and their staff in each committee that bills that pass through those committees, including our support, our opposition, or amendments to proposed legislation. This included coordination with the department leads in the PGCPS administration on fiscal notes, policy recommendations, and coordination with the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, MABE. Our North Star was the legislative platform, collaboratively developed with the board members, the superintendent, and the administration throughout this process. So I want to provide some more color to the impact that we had in Annapolis this year. And to do that, I want to welcome Mrs. Robin Welsh, Director of Government Relations, to share more about those bills that have passed the General Assembly and that have been signed by the governor.
Thank you, Board Member Briggs. Good evening, Chair Mickens Murray, members of the board, and Superintendent House. I'm going to go over the bill. We have loads of bills actually on this presentation, but I am not going to go through every single bill. I'm just going to highlight some of the major bills that, as Chair Briggs shared with us just a couple minutes ago, that really sort of were supported by our platform. We used our platform to be able to make a statement about each one. So I will take you. So these bills, all of these bills address local school board authority, and they're related to advertising bids and the budget, transparency of the budget, and also legislative audits, coming up with a plan within three years after the Office of Legislative Audits provides their findings. But a big bill that came through and actually has big impact for the school system, and I just want to spend just a couple seconds with this one, is House Bill 821, Senate Bill 654, and that is Student Support in School Facilities and Public Safety Surcharge and Report Sunset Extension. So I want to talk specifically to the student support piece, because the Board of Education is highly involved in this, as well as the high schools. So the bill states that by December 31st, on or before, the Board of Education is responsible for developing, approving, and disseminating a template for a student support success action plan to be used by each network and each high school. And each network is made up of an assistant principal of the school, the professional school-based counselors, school-based psychologists, school-based nurses, licensed clinical social workers, crisis intervention resource teachers, career coaches, community school coordinators, school resource officers, and school security employees. So, and the plan itself first must address all of these metrics to measure and to see if there's actually been improvement. The number of students who have access to behavioral and mental health supports, the ratio of licensed behavioral mental health professionals to students, referral of students to mental health services, nurses, career counseling, and food pantries, community school access assessment results, restorative approaches utilized, trauma-informed approaches utilized, number of school-based arrests, number of disciplinary referrals issued, number of suspensions, number of referrals to the Department of Juvenile Services, and a number of expulsions for nonviolent behavior. So, taking all these metrics, then each network is supposed to come up with a plan for the school that has to be submitted to the board for approval on or before July 1 of each year, and then followed up with a report to the board of the progress for each network. So it is an unfunded mandate also, and it is it's going to be very time consuming. And our schools will be heavily involved with this. Hopefully, though, with all the work of all these people looking at these many aspects of school performance for students, they will see improvements in many of the different areas. The next slide, and I'm sorry I spent so much time on that one, but there was so much to it, so I'll keep moving forward. Funding for success, just wanted to talk a minute about House Bill 1082, which does require each county board of ed to provide $150,000 for salary and benefits for the Blueprint of Maryland's Future Implementation Coordinator, which is jointly appointed by the county government and the local school system to be able to pay for this. Even though it's coming from the school system, it's actually the state and county governments that must pay for the coordinator's salary in the same proportion as the foundation program funding. And the requirement to appoint this implementation coordinator which was supposed to be terminated as of fiscal 2026, has now been extended indefinitely. The next bill, and there's many bills addressing, it's related to teacher certification and training of teachers, but the one bill I did want to focus on had to do with a school employee anti-bias training. And this is training that we must provide to our teachers. It's in consultation. The training needs to be developed in consultation with our teachers and based on guidelines that are supposed to be developed by the Maryland State Department of Education. And the training should be provided every other year, and it's to any employee who has any interaction with students. So mainly our school-based employees, like our teachers, our assistants. It could be any of our professionals, like speech pathologists, professional counselors, anyone like that. And the bill also states that the training shall be job-embedded, paid professional development training. So that's an important bill that was passed, and there was a lot of conversation related to that one. This is more staffing and recruitment. I was going to spend a couple minutes with House Bill 1390, but I think I will pass since you just had a major conversation about the results of this legislation. So I will take you to the next one, which has to do with, let's see, I think I might have jumped ahead. Excuse me 1 second. Oh, wait, here it is. House Bill 1426, which is Education Blueprint for Maryland's Future Alterations. This authorizes the State Board and the AIB to establish limits on courses taken by duly enrolled students. And I know currently we have students who take quite a large number of duly enrolled, they are duly enrolled. And so I don't know how that's going to impact in terms of what they'll provide in terms of those limits, but we will see an impact there. It also expands eligibility for state payments of the National Board Certification payments to include certain non-classroom teachers, including administrators, assistant principals, and instructional specialists. And it does authorize the state board rather than the AIB to determine criteria for classroom teaching time. The next one has to do with special education. There were several bills that were quite beneficial to students with disabilities and parents of students with disabilities. I am going to talk about House Bill 1076 and Senate Bill 1091, the cross-filed bill. And that bill is blind and visually impaired students textbook equity. And this establishes requirements for each county board of education to determine by March 15th each year the instructional materials that are going to be used for the upcoming school year with students that have visual impairments or who are blind. And the purpose of this is to ensure that those students actually receive their books in Braille by the start of the school year, because frequently the school year has started and we don't have the books in Braille for the students in the beginning of the year. And I do want to say that this is one bill that our office, especially Shelby, was very instrumental in talking to the delegate who was responsible for this bill and getting her to extend the time. It was originally a January 15th date, and we were able to move it to March 15th to buy a little bit more time, because sometimes you don't know which courses a student's going to take for the following year. So it does give us a little bit of additional time to be able to get that information together so that we can send it to the organization that actually does the brailing for us. And then I'm going to take you to this next one on student health and mental awareness. This one's Senate Bill 1099. Excuse me one second. So if you recall, last year you did a policy on AEDs, and both had to do with number of AEDs in each of our schools, as well as a plan for all of our athletic facilities. This bill now extends this so that the purpose is to ensure that the automated external defibrillator program will now include an initiative to co-locate up to 2 doses of naloxone, so that you have that available for students just in the high schools, but that you have it available in case there would be a student who might have overdosed, and that's right there. So that's a new bill. And then, okay, the next one is this universal expansion report bill, Senate Bill 579. I wanted to talk a little bit about. So we did have in our platform that we wanted to make sure that we were in favor of universal meals, but we wanted to make sure that that the state paid for it. So this is a bill that actually is requiring the state to do an extensive study and look at for each county. They're going to be asking for lots of information from the county in terms of the rate of providing free breakfasts and lunch. And then also, they're going to want data desegregated by elementary, middle, and high schools for breakfast and for lunch in terms of participation rates, students' cost of meals, subsidies provided to students to assist the cost of meals, school attendance rates, the staffing costs of providing meals on a per pupil basis, and the threshold for participation in the community eligibility provisions. So that we will be called upon to provide the state with a significant amount of information, but hopefully they'll be able to use all that information to come up with a plan so that they can fund a universal breakfast and lunch program for our students. The next one is Senate Bill 33, and this bill is More Opportunities for Career-Focused Students Act of 2024. And so normally we are required to provide information to our students about post-secondary education opportunities, but now this bill also requires us to inform students of employment and skill training opportunities. So the information that we need to provide that let them know is available through registered apprenticeship sponsors, employers registered by the Maryland Department of Labor or Workforce Development Boards, and schools licensed by the Maryland Higher Education Commission that provides training, retraining, enhancement, assessment and employment skills. So it's to open the door for students to have a way to access other things, because if they don't want to go to college, but they would like a career in another field, this opens that opportunity. I'm going to hand the mic over to Shelby now.
Good evening, Chair Mickensbury, board members, Superintendent House. It's my pleasure to present the local bills. The local bills are the bills that start off in the Prince George's delegation and work their way up. And so they are what I call the grassroots bills because they deal specifically with Prince George's County. The first one is this HB 376, the study on feasibility of relocating the Prince George's County Public School System headquarters, which is PG 50124. This bill was passed in the roll, which means that it made it through crossover and has some amendments done while it was in the Senate. The biggest change in that bill was it originally was going to be paid for by the Prince George's County Council, but it now will be paid for by PGCPS. The next bill I'm going to discuss is HB 396, which is Prince George's County Sales and Use Tax on Energy and Fuel, which is PG 40724, which we opposed in our platform, and it returned passed. And HB 398, Prince George's County Taxes on Telecommunication Services, which we opposed in our platform, and it returned passed. I mentioned these two bills because they were heavily, there's a lot of advocating going on those bills. We spent a lot of time, and the Prince George's delegation did do a couple of delays just to try to help us to work things out. I want to mention HB 838, Prince George's County Family Child Care Home Expansion Grant Program Establishment, which is PG 50524. It establishes the Prince George's County Family Child Care Home Expansion Grant Program to be administered by the Prince George's County Public School System to increase the number of registered family child care providers, family child care homes, and large family child care homes in low-income communities in the county. To carry out the program, PGCPS must award grants to nonprofit organizations in the county to provide training and financial assistance to individuals intending to become family child care providers that operate family child care homes and large family child care homes in low-income communities. And let me just say that bill significantly changed over the course. It was a late file bill. It started out with MSDE as the organization over the program, and then moved to, of course, PGCPS. The funding actually was cut out of the bill also, which would have come from the governor. The bill stalled in the Rules Committee for a while. We really didn't think the bill was going to pass. It was going to be taken to the floor, but it was refiled through another committee. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of some of the things that happened with that bill. And the last bill, of course, is SB 191, which is Prince George's County Public School Employees Property Tax Credit and Office of Integrity and Compliance, PG 50324, which authorizes Prince George's County government to grant a property tax credit against the county property tax imposed on dwellings that are owned by certain employees of the Prince George's County Public School System. All right, this bill passed both houses, and it was amended at, I think, the very last moment to include the information for the Integrity and Compliance Officer. Mr. Turner. And that concludes my part. Thank you.
Shelby, thank you so much. And I know we have more in the slides. I did promise 15 minutes for this presentation and want to wrap. So I do know that we had a few failed bills that were in the House and the Senate. Robin, if you could just really quickly just speak to just one of those failed bills so that the board at least knows and the public can hear it, and then we're going to wrap up the presentation.
Oh, what happened to the? So I'm going to say something very quick. We have at least 2 of the bills had to do with curriculum. And this is critical because the legislature attempted numerous times to push bills through of which they were going to determine what the curriculum was going to be and what the standards for the curriculum would be. And that is a job for local board. First of all, MSD sets the standards, but then the local boards of ed and the superintendent and staff work together to develop curriculum for the school system. And these, we opposed them. It was in our platform opposed. This was opposed, and they failed. The second one, and there is a mistake up here. I see it says signed by the governor. It was not signed because it was failed. So I apologize for that. I just saw that. The last one I wanted to say is public charter schools. So we actually had pretty strong statements in our platform about the public charter schools, especially one of the issues had to do with funding of the public charter schools. And this bill was actually set up to add a lot of additional funding that would be paying over to charter schools, with the idea that maybe we would never see that in return, and the idea being that public funds are going to a private owner of a charter school. And we opposed it because of our platform again, and the it failed in the legislature and it wasn't signed. So
yeah,
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robin. I know this is very exciting stuff, and we could go on for days, truly. But we have a finite amount of time, so I do want to just close with a few reflections and next steps. This year we learned a few things after reflecting on how the legislative session went. First is having a clear and concise set of priorities matters, which is helpful for many stakeholders to refer to. Having a legislative platform that reflects the shared priorities of board members, the superintendent, and the administration is a powerful tool that benefits us all directly and indirectly. When key partners know that they can rely on key information when needed, it helps us build lives of trust and credibility that will continue to benefit us all. Second, we learned this year how important it is that PGCPS has one voice and one message, particularly on key issues. What we heard from legislators is that they value consistent and aligned communication. Especially when a highly visible issue impacts a school district, we must know where we stand collectively, and our platform helps immensely for external stakeholders and those associated with PGCPS. So we must really internalize those priorities. And then finally, coordination is key. The Policy and Governance Committee and Government Relations team should always have some visibility into who talked to whom about what. The more we take the time to align on outreach, the more competent we all look, and it will ultimately build trust and render better outcomes. So moving forward, the Policy and Governance Committee and the Government Relations team are looking to keep momentum going and to refine our processes with a particular focus on better and more effective advocacy with legislators around our priorities as they file bills in the fall, to set up intentional meetings and give them advance access to what the school district is prioritizing policy-wise for the upcoming school year. We know that time is of the essence with the General Assembly, so a big priority for next year is early intervention and targeted advocacy days to have a more visible and deliberate presence in Annapolis. So I want to say thank you so much for allowing us to present today. Sorry that it went over a little bit, but hopefully we can get out on time.
Okay, but this was good information, and we needed the information, and also speaking with one voice is a good takeaway from the experience that you had this year. So I thank Superintendent House, his staff, and Chair Briggs. Thank you so much. We needed it. At this time, we will have public comments. The chair will recognize your comments but will not address them. Registered speakers have 3 minutes to make their presentations and may not relinquish any part of their speaking time. Speakers may not address individuals or issues with profanity or derogatory terms. You will be warned once. If you continue, your comments will be muted and you may be removed from the meeting. Speakers are encouraged to use titles rather than names. For example, chair, board member, superintendent, principal, etc. There are 10 public commenters tonight. Our first speaker is Bobby Batson, 8th grade student, Kenmore Middle School, talking about students and more breaks incorporated into schools.
Good night, everyone. My name is Bobby Batson, and I'm an 8th grade student at Kenmore Middle. And a problem that students are facing in school is a decline in production and focus. As a student myself, continuously working in school more often than not tires me out. As a result, I feel less inclined to focus and do my work. This is why I think incorporating more breaks into a regular school day will be beneficial towards student learning. Having extra time to recuperate during school hours can be really helpful. It is proven that taking breaks in the long run can increase your productivity. Working for long periods of time can cause mental fatigue, therefore reducing your work drive. Studies show working for long periods of time for students can increase stress, leading to negative effects. This I can personally say is true for me. Having breaks allows students to recharge and be their best self while in school. From personal experience, whenever I am at lunch and am able to talk with my friends and be free from doing work for that time period, I instantly become less stressed and happier. This is why I think an increase in student happiness overall could happen in a result of more breaks. I know some parents think that in those breaks, students will be allowed to go crazy. This, however, would not be the case. By incorporating 10-minute breaks in between classes where students are able to stay in that class and are able to de-stress by pulling out a book and reading it or using that time to talk to fellow classmates. School rules will still be enforced during this time, not allowing students to get out of control. Another possible break time would be after lunch. Students' main complaint transitioning from elementary school to middle school is that their chance to have recess was taken away. Bringing back this extra time so students can either go outside and do activities, but could also stay inside and have that extra time to socialize. Taking breaks can also help students focus more on work in class. Providing short breaks can be helpful while still allowing students to get work done. If students get more breaks, they won't feel as stressed or tired and will be more ready to do their work. From experience and what I see from my classmates around me, when there are days when we are allowed to have breaks and just recharge, it is usually way more productive. Whenever I'm able to do good in school and go home and tell my parent I did good, it not only makes me happy, but it makes them happy too. And who wouldn't want their mother or father to be happy?
I agree.
So, taking breaks can help students say that sentence to their parent every day. So by teachers, parents, and school executives supporting this idea of having more breaks in school, it will not only be beneficial to students, but also the whole school itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Public speaking is in your future. You missed a comment? You want to say something else?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I also have here a petition. I would like to submit it, and it has 657 signatures.
Wow.
From students and teachers who also support the idea.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to give that to Chief Board. 600 folks signed that. You give that to Chief Board. Thank you so much. Thank you. Our next speaker is Marla Crawford, Individual Internal Audit. I don't see anyone walking to the mic, so we will go to our next speaker, Timothy Meyer, Mount Rainier Elementary PTO, President, protecting the Prince George's County School budget.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And my time's not up yet.
No, we're resetting it for you, just for you.
First, it is a big week in education. But here in PGCPS, our teachers, principals, and staff deserve more than a pizza lunch for Appreciation Week once a year. We must appreciate them by paying them like the professionals that they are. And that's why the blueprint, with higher base pay and opportunities for educators, is so vital. We also honor our teachers by investing in quality school buildings to teach in. That's why the Educational Facilities Master Plan, as designed by the experts, is so important. That means fully funding school construction without making every step a new political game. Now, I've said many times over the years that my children's new middle school is already built, but other school communities need new buildings just as much. That's why we must be here to fight for Phase 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 until every student and teacher in PGCPS have the high-quality schools they deserve. Finally, honoring our educators means fighting for every dollar possible. So, the elephant in the room. Right now, we're in the middle of a major budget fight, right as many of the key players are also in the middle of campaigns. That cannot matter. Political calculations cannot matter. the students of PGCPS delivering the best education possible, that is the only thing that matters to us. Education funding is simply too important to be political. The superintendent is probably wondering how he accidentally ended up in this political mix. And yes, we all know that he would rather stay well above the fray. But the answer is, he was doing his job, fighting for PGCPS funding. Cuts to our budget, even $30 or $40 million, would indeed be catastrophic. And I want to make clear that neither he nor this board owes anyone an apology for standing up and speaking that truth. Standing up for the students of PGCPS is always the right thing. The fact is, we can't afford a $32 million budget gap right now. To keep the promise of the blueprint, which is something that we must do, we need new streams of education funding revenue, not budgets that leave PGCPS facing cuts. It's not personal, it's not politics. We can be aligned with our allies at the county level on one issue, like standing together on school construction, while disagreeing respectfully on another. But what we need is parents in this board to be united to fight for every dollar because it matters to our kids. So I'm asking each of you to keep continuing this fight, keep fighting, let's try to claw back every dollar of that $32 million that we can, and keep fighting until we close the budget gap. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Laura Pillsbury, Individual Blueprint MOU.
Mom, do they not want to build a new school for us? This is what I was asked last night by my 7-year-old when I talked to her about how I was going to miss supper tonight to deliver testimony about building our new school. Good evening, board members and staff and superintendent. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Hyattsville Elementary PTA. I know each of you care as much about this as I do, and I know if my daughter had asked you this question directly, all of you would respond to her with a resounding yes. I imagine you'd tell her you not only want her to have a better building, but you are working to make it happen. I dare not tell her that the plan, the Education Facilities Master Plan, was supposed to deliver a new school before she even started at HES, as I don't think she'll understand how sometimes adults can get lost in their focus on what's most important. Our children, our teachers, and our staff deserve to know we are focused on putting them first. We are all very grateful and excited as the plans for the rebuild of HES and several other schools are advancing in Phase 2 of the Alternative Construction Financing Package. I will spare the usual details of our past testimony about the state of the HES building. You probably don't need to be reminded again about the story of raw sewage in the kindergarten classrooms or any of the many other issues with our nearly 90-year-old and overcrowded school building. I urge you to please continue to keep up the progress with the Phase 2 ACF schools and support the ask in front of you tonight to increase the affordability limit for the ACF Phase 2 package to finalize the new Carlton land purchase for the board that the board approved in May 2023. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your work to ensure that all kids in PG County will have adequate buildings in the future.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Amy Parker, Individual Blueprint MOU.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight to all of you. It's actually my first time in front of the board, so thank you for the opportunity and for witnessing everything and all the discussions this evening. I really want to address what the previous two speakers have spoken about, highlighting the urgent need to finalize efforts related to school construction within our county. I have two little ones in the county. One is currently a second grader at HES. Another is going to be coming up as a kindergartner, where fingers crossed her first year of overlap with her big sister will be in a swing space if everything happens on time. As we approach the end of yet another school year, our school buildings needs still continue to grow. As you all know, across the county, our children still are in classrooms that are overcrowded. Our HVACs still do not work consistently. And as of the last couple weeks, we've gotten yet another Class Dojo message of saying, our IT systems are down. You can't call the school. Just again, highlighting the need has not gone away, even as you all have progressed a lot of really good measures and proceeded with a lot of really great effort. So what I would urge you all to do, as you've heard this evening, the discussions about the MOU, please, once that does get in front of you, take urgent action, don't delay. Make sure that we hit the timelines as prescribed. Our students need that. And as was highlighted at the very beginning of this talk, or of the board meeting this evening, our teachers deserve more. I think that they are the group that is lost in a lot of this discussion. None of us would want to go to school or go to work in an environment that we're asking our teachers to go to day after day, year after year. Many of us probably would have quit. So I would ask all of you, as things are moving forward, please take urgent action on the MOU when it is in front of you, and please proceed urgently with actual finalization of the land purchase in New Carrollton. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Daniel Broder, Individual Educational Facilities Master Plan.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, board members. My name is Daniel Broder. I am the chairperson of the City of Hyattsville's Educational Facilities Task Force, here tonight speaking in an individual capacity. I was fortunate enough to join the EFTF in 2019 when it was formulated, and even more lucky to see the amazing progress that that committee has helped make in our community. I watched as Hyattsville Middle School, a school with black molding pipes, rodents in the cafeteria, and bathrooms without doors because of poor ventilation, was knocked down and replaced with a world-class facility thanks to phase one of the, oh, wow, why is the name escaping me? Thanks to phase one of the ACF. There we go. Phase two is coming up, and as Chair Mickens-Murray alluded to, there's already been lots of games played with the funding for this. And I'm here to tell you why these aren't games, why they may be a matter of life, hospitalization, or even death for some students. My 3-year-old son has severe asthma. I can count on multiple hands the number of times I've been in the emergency room with him, holding him as he's hooked up to a ventilator, struggling to breathe. When I've been in these buildings, and it's not just HMS, it's not just HES, it's the entire school system. When I've been in these buildings, I have seen the asbestos, I have seen the black mold, I have seen the kinds of conditions that have landed my son in the ER over and over and over again. So we're up here thinking about what's my reelection going to look like if I don't vote this way or that way. The county council's thinking, what's my reelection going to look like if I pull this funding mechanism lever? I'm going home and I'm thinking, am I going to send my son to a school that's going to kill him? And it's not just him. Look at the asthma rates in this county compared to the state. They're astronomical. So like Chair Mickens-Murray said, stop playing games. Get this done. Because it's not just a matter of facilities, it's a matter of public health. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tammy O'Donnell, Individual Testing, Grading, and Policies. I don't see anyone walking forward, so next we'll have Dr. Donna Christie, PGCEA President, MOU with PGCEA.
Good evening and happy Educator Appreciation Week to all the educators here this evening and those watching at home. Thank you to all of the board members who have been visiting schools this week to show their appreciation to the educators in their districts. So one way to show your appreciation tonight is to approve the MOU agreed to between PGCEA and the administration. It fills a technical hole in our contract caused by creating a new job title in the middle of the contract cycle. The title change of our special education resource teachers serving as special education chairpersons to a new title of IEP facilitator caused them to be dropped from our differential scale, resulting in a loss of pay. When the new title was announced, they were told there would be no loss in pay, but the technicality of their exclusion from this list of job titles on page 52 of our contract did cause them to lose this differential. So I'm asking you to show your appreciation and approve this MOU so that they can be restored. A second way to show your appreciation is by addressing the extreme staffing shortages plaguing our district. Last May, I sent a memo to Dr. Golson and CC'd the board chair recommending a recruitment and retention salary differential of $10,000. With the impending transition of leadership, Dr. Golson deferred that recommendation to our new superintendent. And throughout the year, I have reminded him and his representatives in our various meetings about that recommendation. And we were told it's not a no, but we must look into it further. So here we are a year later and the staffing shortages have not improved. And I know it sounds like a lot of money, but the vacancies are creating record fund balances. According to the board action summary from May 11th, 2023, and then serendipitously reposted to the March 21st board agenda, it showed that in fiscal year 2023, the district's expenditures were $1.16 billion under budget. Based on the data in that report, approximately $800 million of that was a direct result of the staffing shortages. So $10,000 times our 20,000 employees would consume just $200 million of that balance. 20,000 would consume $400 million of that balance, which is still only half of the $800 million that you saved on the backs of our educators because our members worked overtime to fill those gaps, increasing burnout rates and exacerbating the staffing shortages. So therefore, I now recommend a $20,000 salary differential for all Unit 1, 2, 3, and 4 employees to retain the overworked and exhausted employees that you currently have and to competitively attract the employees we need to fill the Grand Canyon of staffing vacancies. $20,000 would be enough for them to cut those part-time jobs that they are holding to make ends meet and restore some work-life balance. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Show our educators some appreciation, approve the MOU, and consider a retention and recruitment differential. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crystal Nugent, individual parking. Okay, not seeing that person. Mr. Jeffrey Parker, ASASP, evaluation and staffing for school year 2025. Don't see that person. And finally, Michelle Clark, individual early childhood centers.
Good evening, everybody. It's
Good
nice
evening.
to see you again. There's some new faces since the last time I was here. And I just spoke to Pamela Boozer Struthers, said I need to get back here, so I'm here. And I am a pre-K special education teacher in a co-taught classroom at Kenmore Early Childhood Center. And this sort of goes along with Dr. Christie's point about people needing true appreciation and some financial remuneration for everything we've been going through in the past few years. For example, in a pre-K co-taught class, there's supposed to be 2 teachers and 2 paraprofessionals, one for the general educator and one for the special educator. We have not had more than 3 staff members in any pre-K class in the past 2 school years. It hasn't even been a thought. In 4 out of our 6 pre-K classrooms this year, there is no special education co-taught teacher. The paperwork is being picked up, and I'm sure they're being paid extra time for some of the caseworks they're doing, but it's been picked up by those of us who are still there. It's not acceptable to put people in this situation over and over and over again and do it knowingly. I look down the hall right now because we've got state funding. We're accredited by the state for our pre-K program. There's a limit. There's a hard limit as to how many special education students they can give me on my caseload. However, down the hall from me, in the 4-year-old classrooms that are self-contained, there are some classrooms with 16, 17, and 18 students on their caseload. To be self-contained, you need extra help. They have 3 staff members. This goes against everything in our special education staffing plan and what is planned for, and it needs to be fixed. I have been so burnt out that I actually spent 8 days in the hospital earlier this year and was out of work for several months getting myself put back together. It is too much. It's happening to too many of us. You're forcing, not you personally, but it's forcing people out of the profession. I'm here because I love it. I love my students. I want the best for them at all times. I'm getting scratched up every day by one of them, and yet I go back in there day after day because I'm here for them. We need you to help us by being here for us. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no public comment written statements. We have two videos, one from Lamar Mutz, ESA Carpenters Union, May 17th Open House and Apprenticeship Competition for Prince George's County, and then a written video from Marla Crawford, Individual Internal Audits. So that is all for our public comments. Now we will have our update from the transportation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to invite Dr. Sharaska Coleman, our Chief Operating Officer, as well as Kiba Baldwin, to the microphone to provide this brief update.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Board Chair Mickens Murray, Vice Chair Walker, and members of the board. Thank you, Superintendent House, for this opportunity to update board members and members of the public on item 4.2, transportation updates. At the April 25th board meeting, an overview of the project management plan was shared with the Board of Education and the public regarding the 5 prioritized recommendations being implemented to improve our transportation plan. The 3 main objectives of Phase 1, as we work to improve our transportation efficiency over multiple phases and multiple years, are to first, enhance the efficiency of our transportation system while maintaining our focus on safety. Second, engage with our stakeholder groups to ensure they are well informed and that the improvement process is collaborative. And third, to evaluate our progress by regularly reporting throughout this improvement process to ensure sufficient progress monitoring, transparency, and accountability. This evening, we will go deeper into recommendation 4, the codified opt-out. At the upcoming June Board of Education meetings, we will report out on the continued progress with the remaining recommendations. So at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Dr. Strader, Chief of Monitoring and Accountability, to provide an overview of the codified transportation opt-out, followed by Chief of Staff Boyd, who will focus on the ongoing communication and engagement efforts. Chief Strader.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm lit.
Mike, please, thank you.
There we go. Good evening, members of the board. I'd like to introduce Mr. Roger Prince to the podium, if you would. Mr. Prince is the Director of Pupil Accounting and School Boundaries, as well as Student Records, the newest added department to his department. Mr. Prince and his team are active in facilitating the implementation of the recommendation number 4 as part of the audit. Thank you for the volume increase. So, Mr. Prince, I turn it over to you.
Good evening, Chair Mickens Murray, members of the board, Superintendent's House. Let's, if we can move this slide down. Let's go back. Yeah, here we go. There we go. And the next slide. Now, there we go. I think we want it. Right there. I think we were there before. for this opportunity. First of all, this is a major opportunity for us as a school district. In looking at the transportation audit that was conducted, with the focus on recommendation 4, as you can see, a codified opt-out practice. And I'm going to read aloud so you can see that and hear it. PGCF needs to implement a formalized process for recording ridership, daily student non-rider, chronic no-shows, intermittent riders. It is also should actively promote an opt-out option. And the next slide. What you see here is a part of the work that we have been doing under the key actions. You notice at the top, there are 3 areas in blue. What has been occurring over the last several months is an integrated opt-out process into the student information system, which is called Synergy. Also, what has been happening, a part of our key actions is that to train our staff on the opt-out process, what that's going to look like. And finally, in blue, under the key action, you can see determining an opt-out decision, which is very important for our parents as well as for the transportation department. The next slide is going to highlight, speaking mic, okay, yeah, sorry. The next slide is going to start highlighting a few opportunities. And again, you can read it, but one of the key actions, again, in the transportation audit plan is to integrate an opt-out process into the new student information system. Again, you're going to hear about Synergy, and I'm going to mention that word again because with Synergy comes a parent view option. And each family will have an opportunity to touch parent view. So within the new design of the new student information system, and to improve the PGCPS transportation process, all families will be allowed to inform the district of their decision to opt out of transportation for the 24-25 school year. But in order for this to occur, to the next slide, this is very, very important. We need to survey our families to solicit their opt-out information between May and June and 24th. And I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm kind of leaning in here so I can make sure everyone can hear me. What I want you to do is to think about this process in 2 phases. Phase number 1 is a before July 22nd, as you can see on the slide. Phase number 2 is going to be after July 22nd. And so keep in mind that families will have to, on both sides of these phases, have to touch a system to provide information. So what is that going to look like? The survey allows for us to collect information such as names, email, school name, phone number, and the transportation opt-out. This process allows the school district to communicate with families during what is going to be called a go dark period. This go dark period is going to occur between June 20th and July 21st. Now, why are we going go dark? Our old system, or School Max, that many of our parents are familiar with, our schools are familiar with, is going to be sunsetting. And during that sunsetting time, information is going to be migrated into the new system, or Synergy. And so in order for us to ensure that our families are clear with what is expected, we need to collect this information. And so again, one important to note, phase 1 is going to be before July 22nd, where we're going to be sending out a survey, where we're going to collect the information from the families. This is a massive effort we're going to work to do. After July 22nd, as you can see, all PGCPS existing students and new students to the district will have to touch the system again. So again, information to be sent out prior to July 22nd, because we need to be able to communicate with our families, provide synergy updates during the go dark period, transportation information, and even school boundary changes. Once that July 22nd timeline comes, we will be sending out activation codes to new and to existing families. So what is it going to look like in Parent View? Keep in mind, we are still in that process of building the system, working very closely with our IT department and multiple departments across the school district. So when parents get into school, to Synergy, there will be, they're going to be entering in what is called a Parent View account. Every parent has to touch this system. They will receive an activation code. They will go in, and when they go in, a part of that, they'll provide basic demographic information. But the piece here that is going to be critical to our presentation tonight, we've built in what is called a Parent View transportation opt-out, where we will ask our parents some questions, whether or not they want to opt out. They select no. You kind of see a draft here. Again, this is still a draft. This is still in draft form. And what I want to highlight when parents are doing this is that it's the goal for transportation, for us to receive that bus information at an early time. And so during the phase one, when we send out the information to the parents and we really need to communicate, board members ask that you speak with your districts, your areas, to just remind parents, please fill out this form, because our transportation department will need this information so they can start building the routes. We cannot build those routes in the beginning of August. We want to do it as early as we possibly can. And so again, we're going to touch it again after July 22nd, because we want to again look at this data and make sure that all of our information is accurate. So yes, families will have to, families will have to touch this system, two different systems, twice. Okay? The final one being the Parent View within Synergy. And one of the statements that is going to be placed on throughout our communication and in Synergy is this: if your child typically receives a bus assignment, but you do not plan for them to ride the bus, letting us know helps us, here's the key word, streamline services and avoid unneeded trips. When we can account for families who do not plan to use their bus assignment, it allows us to maximize routes and provide more efficient service to all. And this information is going to be plastered on the Parent View page, so families know and they're clear with what is expected. And so as a result of our work with this opt-out and with Synergy Parent View, we are moving towards finalizing the Parent View site that includes name, email, just basic demographic, to include the transportation opt-out. And in summary, this information again will be used by transportation to help streamline a process, to promote efficiency, and getting our students to school on time.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I have a light. So are we done? I don't know if you're done with your presentation.
Madam-
Not quite.
Madam Chair?
So we gotta wait.
1 second. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
I just wanted to bring us back to the timeline. So we have about 3 to 4 months left in this 6-month timeline that we shared with the board maybe last month. I wanted to highlight a couple of things. As you can see at the very top left-hand corner, recommendation number 4 is on track. And then secondly, there is, as it was last time, a communications overlay and a reporting overlay, which includes the meeting that we're having right now. in May, as well as 2 board meetings in June where we will provide an update for you. So I won't read them through. You guys have access to this document, but wanted to highlight that for our labor partner engagement, we have regularly scheduled monthly meetings. We've implemented roundtables, and we'll have an upcoming roundtable with Local 2250. In addition to that, our labor partners also have scheduled individual meetings with Superintendent House. And then finally, I wanted to highlight that Superintendent House's Parent Advisory Council had an opportunity to meet with him this week, as well as Dr. Strader and our transportation team, to seek advisement on outreach strategies that we plan to implement over the summer, as Mr. Prince just shared with you. And we would like to take a moment to thank all of the families that showed up to our information sessions, and also each of you who showed up and took the time to hear questions, comments, and concerns about transportation. We had 9 information sessions, and I will advise everyone that it will not be the last. We will continue to engage our community as we roll out our implementation plan. In an effort to center the voices, perspectives, and opinions of our parents, I'd like to read a portion of a quote from Joanne, a PGCPS parent. It reads, "Consolidating bus stops is a powerful idea, and as a public transportation professional, I'm glad PGCPS is exploring it. I would say that many parents and guardians cannot commit to get their kids to the bus stop, no matter where it is. I'm bringing this up because it's important to remember that some parents and guardians have a disability or mobility impairment, or they might work the overnight shift, or they might not have access to a car, so they can't get their kiddo to the bus stop." That's one quote. Another reads, "I sympathize for the families and staff affected badly by the time change, but so thankful for the conservative, minimal approach to the time change. Thank you." And that is from a parent named Bree. Just wanted to center their voices as we talk about implementation. That concludes our report.
Thank you so much. And before I entertain questions, Superintendent House, I received a letter at my house. I forgot to scan it and fax it, but I will scan it to you to share with Dr. Coleman and his team. And it's from a bus driver with some concerns about the timeline. Not the timeline, the bus is running several routes. But I promise you, I'll get that to you and your staff tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. All right, board members, I see 3 lights. We will start with Dr. Okay, no, we won't. We will start with Board Member Rout.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I really want to thank the administration for providing this update. I do have a couple of questions that would just clarify just some things in relation to the outreach efforts for this phase of the information. I'm just wondering if there will be any type of directions that includes screenshots or anything for some of our parents who may not be technologically savvy, or will there be like a special email address or telephone number that parents will be able to call to get some technical assistance?
We definitely will, and I'll defer to Dr. Coleman, but we definitely will continue the different segmentations of communication around this. We know that social media is an important communication tool. We also will continue with some of the traditional means of communication as well, whether that be screenshot emails, phone calls, call outs. But yes, we'll continue with a multitude of ways of ensuring that our community understands how we can assist and how we can help. Dr. Coleman, any additional insight here?
Thank you so much. Chief Strader and his team have been thinking a lot about that question, so I'm going to defer to him to provide some additional color.
Yeah, so the answer to that is yes. But keep in mind, this is a 2-pronged approach. So I believe mostly of what you're sharing is related to the Synergy implementation, which will be our new student information system. So both school-based staff as well as central office staff will be trained in the efforts of being able to assist all of our parents. And it should be a business-as-usual function like we had with our last student information system, and getting our students engaged and getting our parents engaged and getting their students enrolled and registered. Prior to, in that phase one that Mr. Prince mentioned earlier, for the summer activities leading up to this school year, the survey that'll be provided to all of our parents will be, it's just a basic survey that we also use, if many can remember, our transition back to in-person instruction after COVID. It's going to be the similar process that we undertook back then, so it'll be like a Google survey that we'll share, and it'll be in multiple languages to collect this information.
You know, that's really helpful to understand. I'm really happy that we're going to be providing, looking at our class standards for our culturally and linguistic services to our constituents. But I also, it's just not clear to me about the, for the parents that are not technologically savvy. We have a large number of grandparents that, support their young people. And they may or may not have the technology themselves. So that's just really important when we're talking about equity and having, just things be available to all of our parents.
And board member, I'll just share what you are articulating right now is one of the things that we talked about on Tuesday, or maybe it was Monday, with our superintendent parent advisory group. So what we were thinking through is what are some of the ways that we can engage our parent and guardian after we launched this first survey, and for those who we do not have information for, how do we reach out to them, meet them where they are, and figure out a way to support them. So we're still welcoming those ideas, and we'll continue to welcome them from the community and all of you.
Mr. Zuckerman, is there a way that we could do a data bump in between the two?
Time.
So
Second
can I
round,
finish my
please.
statement?
You can finish your statement, but they'll answer it on the second round, please.
That's very fine.
Okay.
So will there be a data bump from the information that we already have and compare it to what we've already collected to see, are there some parents that may be left out? Maybe they're like in Jamaica or something, having a great time.
Okay, thank you. We will go to Dr. Juanita Miller.
Thank you. Mr. Prince, I was concerned about the transition from School Max to Synergy, and you've given us, when Synergy will go live in July. What will be the impact for planning the transportation routes before school opening? And the other concern is that the opt-out system, you'll have parents who will probably need to opt out because I've noticed in some areas of the school districts that sidewalks have been put in where students can now be walkers. And how are you going to, deal with that? Because it is that's going to have a key role in terms of planning the routes and the especially the elementary school students. Maybe not so much with the secondary, but with the elementary school and parents wanting their scholars to continue riding on the buses. I'm just making a comment in terms of for something for you to consider. I mean, because that is going to be an issue. It's already an issue, especially with the changing of the time for some schools. And considering that when we go back to daylight, when we change time, and those, and I'm specifically bringing this up in reference to the elementary school students.
Thank you, Dr. Miller, and we'll definitely take those things into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. My questions were really along the lines of Board Member Rouse, but she kind of asked them. In District 6, we have a stark technological divide as well, and I was asked specifically on what ways will we try to connect with Some parts, because District 6 has like a very, very like highly affluent area, and then they have some economic challenges too. And so I was asked, what ways specifically are we going to try to reach the community outside of social media? In internet or technology, like are there like specific mailers going out? Are we going to engage like through like door-to-door type situations like canvassing? Just want to know some examples of what we plan to do on that front.
Yes, all of the above will definitely be taken into account. I think.
Yeah, I was just going to add, we discussed this earlier in the meeting that we had with Dr. Zuckerman. So we're going to rely on our principals and the current communications that they have going, because many of them are using Dojo or Remind or Messenger, and ask that they send out a message there letting parents know we do need updated email accounts, and for any parent who needs help with establishing an email if they don't have one, because most schools can get parents like through phone, through a text or something like that, then there would be staff at the school to assist them. And then any new parents who would be coming to register, there'll be the parent advocates at the school as well as the school secretaries, and usually there's someone who could help with language barrier and things like that. And so they would help those parents to get onto Synergy to make the choice around busing and things like that, and then get an email if they don't have one already so that they could stay connected.
Board Member Jackson, what I heard you articulate though was around, in addition to the support, one of the things that we talked about this week was partnering very closely with our registrars, as Dr. Davis mentioned. And so for those families who opt out and then need or prefer to be communicated with via a piece of paper at the registrar's office, our parents suggested that we have those opportunities available for families in that instance.
And also, we'll have registrars, of course, because of this board voting in the manner that it did, to be available for a longer period of time this summer as well, which will be helpful in that communication as well. So thank you for your support there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Board Member Zipporah Miller.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the update and really giving us some clarification on the opt-out and next steps. I had several questions. So as I look at the plan that you really clearly articulated and laid out, like between May and June, you're doing a campaign survey. My question, I think, still centers around some of my other colleagues. When you do that survey, you're trying to gather information between May and June, and then there'll be go dark as you're syncing, and then you will send out an enrollment. So will there be a checks and balances? For example, some parents may get the email, forget to send it. We talked about the technologically difficult for some parents, but some may just forget to fill it out. So will there be some checks and balances to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to enroll? And so you come into July and you've done that checks and balances and you put them in the system. Let's say you put them in the system, you send up that key to enroll and say, hey, enroll into our new system. Will there be another checks and balance to make sure between July and whenever buses start rolling that they have enrolled into the system? So this is not necessarily the opt-out, just to make sure that everyone who requires or needs a bus has enrolled into the system so that it can be planned accordingly.
Can I jump in on this? Thank you. Thank you for that question. I think we're talking about two things here that we're trying to align because the timing sets up nicely for it. So we have the transportation opt-out happening at the same time as we're migrating to a new system. And so we're going to bump the data as much as possible and validate it, but there's going to be missing elements. And I think to all of your point, it's going to be difficult to get 100% data crosswalk with everything we're talking about all by July 22nd. And so we recognize that. And so to your point, Dr. Miller, we will continue the effort to register our parents in ParentView. And ParentView is just the commercial term for Synergy. If you are in Howard County or Montgomery or Fairfax, you log into ParentView, and that's what we'll be doing here. We want to have 100% of our families We're figuring out the date and what's the appropriate timeline for that, to have their contact information in Synergy. When we launched SchoolMax back in 2008, it was a different time, it was a different era. Inputting email addresses was not something that you might have done like you would today. And so we're confident that we can do that through the work that Dr. Davis just mentioned, which just quite candidly, we can do a lot of stuff from our vantage point here, but until we engage our school teams who are working with our families every day, and we will work with Dr. Davis to have that plan for monitoring, rechecking the list, sending it back out. Hey, your school, we're missing 20 families. Can you please, parent engagement assistant, community school coordinator, principal, please track down, work with our families to get registered. So that's our plan, is lots of bites at the apple over an extended period of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next board member is Board Member Adam Stafford. Oh, I'm sorry, that's because you were talking to me. For our small board member, Rain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few questions of my own and a few that I received from a student that is viewing the meeting. However, I will keep it very brief and send some of them via email. So my first question, and this is mainly directed towards Synergy, I'm just wondering how the rollout will work with the July 22nd, 2024 date with summer school starting. I know it's coming up pretty soon, and I've been informed that it ends around the beginning of August. I'm just wondering how students will be able to know how to utilize the platform in enough time with just, like I said, the rollout date being later on, or will they still be utilizing SchoolMax during their summer school journey? And an additional question of mine is also, how are we going to educate all of the teachers, all of the staff members, just in that small time frame before the next school year starts in the later time of August? And one of the questions I got from one of the students was similar to mine. Since July 22nd is the program rollout, summer school will be in session. How will that rollout be smoothly for staff and students to ensure the platforms have no problems? And that's consisting of just bugs and glitches so students can access their school schedules, because usually all of that happens in August. So I'm really just wondering how we'll be educated on how to use the platform.
Yeah, those are great questions. So we'll maintain, we will not be using Synergy for summer school. We will continue using a module in SchoolMax for summer school to keep that going. We have an extensive training plan that has already begun with our registrars and our front office staff in schools. Teachers will begin touching this new system in June. There'll be opportunities throughout the summer and then during our pre-service week. We are working around the clock right now to work out all the bugs. So there is constant use case testing to make sure that the schedules transfer over, the data integration works, and all of the connections are made to bring this thing to life on July 22nd. In my back pocket, if there is any emergency, we can always pull SchoolMax back up if we absolutely need to. That's not what I anticipate will happen. But that's the process we're in right now, is all the use case testing, the integration, the data transfer, and the reason that there is a go dark period for an extended period of time. And by the way, it's not unique to us in Prince George's. Anytime you're making this transition from an old system to a new, you're gonna have an extended period of blackout. That's to make sure that everything transfers over and all the bugs are worked out like you just said. The last thing I'll say is, I'm confident that this is a much more intuitive and user-friendly system than what we have now. And so just where we are technologically, I believe our teachers will have a good experience. I think our students will have no problem using the system once we get it up and running.
Awesome, thank you. I'll send any other questions I have later on. And just something to throw out there, I think maybe after Synergy is used for the first year, possibly a survey being sent out to the community might be good to gain feedback from, just to see what were the positives and negatives that it gathered from the school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Adam Stafford.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to know if we've partnered with the Memorial Library System to support in letting parents know about the shift, because I know in the summertime, a lot of families utilize the libraries, and so I think that would be nice if we haven't already explored that, and also connecting with our faith partners as well. And then my ask is, I think I know that Parent View is, just so that I'm understanding, Parent View is what it will be called by parent, and Synergy is sort of the parent company.
Synergy is the name of the system, the student
system,
information.
yes.
EduPoint is actually the parent company. Parent View is the parent module.
Interface.
Yeah, we have, in SchoolMax, it's the family portal. At Parent View, it's the Synergy Parent View parent interface, yeah.
I think just in terms of streamlining and just so that we can help to market this, I don't know if it could just be called Parent View, because I think having those two different names, and with the Stop Finder and with the changes that are happening, I think that might present just like some confusion for parents. And since that's kind of what they're going to be interfacing with, I think that could help. And then my ask is just, let's start promoting it now. If you go on the PGCPS website, I think the earlier parents know that in addition to bell time shifting, we're also changing our school information system, and this is what it will look like for you. I think the more people know in advance, the better prepared they can be, but I think this will be a good transition for us. Thank you.
We appreciate that feedback.
Thank you. Second round, Board Member Rout.
Oh, thanks so much. I am extremely excited to hear about, I did not say that earlier. I'm excited to hear about the upgrade. So I just truly want to applaud this administration for hearing, everyone, students, parents, teachers, about our system. But I just would like to just bring us back to nasty old COVID. I do think that Dr. Golson did a really, really great job, and I may have said this before with her town halls. The town halls that were conducted here, all parents were just called, like already in the system, and we were put into this telephonic town hall system where the administration had the opportunity to provide all of us parents, it was like thousands of us on the phone at one time, and then there were calls that were fielded to staff for us to get in the queue to ask questions. That strategy was amazing. You didn't have to run around and log in, figure out where to go to find the meeting notice. It called the parents, and it was so easy. And if you missed the call, you could call back the number and they would route you in. So I'm just asking for us to look at our former practices. This was used all throughout COVID, and I know with the parent groups that I'm in, they really found that was beneficial. So I don't know if we still have that robo-dialer, or if that went away with our ESSER funds, but I just really would like for us to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. First round, Board Member LaSallier Frazier.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm very familiar with Synergy. I love Synergy. I think it's very user-friendly. However, there are a lot of hiccups that you have to go through in order to acclimate yourself to it. As an educator and a teacher, I went through the training a couple of times. And once you have the hang of it, it's great. But for parents, I'm very worried because of the experience that I've had in terms of parents that I cannot read. No amount of mailers, no amount of information that you send out to a parent that cannot read and write will be useful. So being cognizant of that, because we had a lot of parents that were not literate, and we had to sit down with them one-on-one to teach them how to use the system. So there's going to be a huge need for that. So let's be cognizant that our parents will need that hand-holding. The other piece is that I'm wondering, so for the opt-outs, I saw the little badge on top. Is that going to be also included in the front page of Synergy, the badge of that the parents have opted out of transportation?
Yes, that will be on the page. And yes, and it can be, one thing that we did mention too is the possibility to update that if the decision changes. So for instance, student turns 16, decides to drive later, they can opt out at any point in time by notifying schools, and then that'll roll up within Synergy to notify transportation of those changes, as well as the other way around. If a student, things change and the student needs to participate in transportation, yes, they'll be able to be notified through Synergy.
I say that because some of the parents, when they saw the badge, they really didn't know what it was, and then when they realized that they were opting out of something, we had opt-outs for different badges and different badges for opt-outs. It caused a lot of anxiety, so just kind of making sure that we train our parents really well so they know what the badges mean, and it's just a lot of little nuances that with a new system. The other pieces that I want to share is that our bus depots, our bus drivers are very interested in having our superintendent visit their bus depot. So I've been asked by a couple of bus drivers if we can, in addition to having leadership for the superintendent to show that he's there and hears from them. I just want to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Second round, Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. So my first question is, with the opt-out feature and the increase in the walking zone, what percentage of students, what's the increase of students walking or finding their own way to school? Like, what's the percentage, or like a number that you have?
I don't have that number, but it's definitely something we can go back and provide to the board.
Right, so I figured, it's, I appreciate it. Yeah, I figured it'll be a significant number because it's a reason why you pick that, the distance or whatever in the opt-out function, because it'll, save whether it's trips or whether it's whatever, I mean, it's a, I guess what I'm trying to say is a reason why you pick that number. My reason for asking that was about the support around the traffic that'll come from the children that are opting out and walking or driving. Like, what is the plan to support our scholars as they travel to school now, since there will be an influx of students on the streets? Have we partnered with the chief of police or with the sheriff's office, whatever county agencies? What does that plan look like to support the new students walking to school and walking home from school, and all of the challenges that may comprise as well? And so I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It is something that Chief Aziz and I personally have sat down and talked about, because there definitely are some challenges that will be posed. Because one of the challenges really speaks to, and Dr. Coben and I have talked a little bit about this as well, and we'll continue to work through this. Now that we have 3 tiers of times, it means that more crossing guards will be required at those particular times. So the idea of the recruitment and selection at the county level of more crossing guards, because it used to be that because we had 13, 14 different tiers, that crossing guards could be at this school and then go to this school because we had so many different, but now they're going to be consolidated into a few different times. So that is something that we're working closely with the county in and around. I think it's also an opportunity to promote more around, what you've been doing as well, to expand that throughout the county in terms of safe crossings. So I think there are some continued opportunities to build capacity and grow throughout the county, whether it be crossing guards or other organizations of volunteers that may want to be supportive in this initiative.
And if I could add just briefly, we're also in communication, as Superintendent House shared, between the Safety and Security Services team, our transportation team, and the Crossing Guard unit with the Prince George's County Police Department, so that we can continue to look at this issue from a lens where we're looking at solutions to support students as they make their way to school. Through the board's budget that is in the process of being approved, we Also have brought on board safe passage coordinators as a part of safety and security services to help bolster this very issue as we likely put more pedestrians on walking to school.
Thank you, and I guess, I know my time is up, but I just want to, this follow-up question is that, will there be a plan that's published that we can kind of see exactly what is the structure that's going to be around this particular initiative? Because, you know, we want to know how our kids are going to be safe, you know, so.
We can definitely include that in future updates.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Zipporah Miller, second round.
Thank you. My question's around the opt-out system. Some of the parents are asking, this is would affect the high school parents. They're asking, while there is an opt-out system and they would opt out, we spoke a little bit about them being able to opt in should the parent decide, you know what, you can't use the car for a while for whatever reason, right? But there could be instances where the car didn't work when they, got home last night that they need to go to school. Will there be some mechanism in which they can get back on the bus and they ask, for example, if they're in the neighborhood school, they might have other people already at the bus stop because they're 9th and 10th graders, so they could they use the bus? That was question one. But the second one would be for someone who's in a specialty school, if they opt out and they happen to be the only one at that bus stop, then that bus wouldn't stop there. Would there be a mechanism so that they are not missing a school day, that they can, this is your next stop that's close to you, I don't know, but some type of solution so that they can still get to school the following day?
Sure, thank you so much. I don't believe that the system will be quite that nimble, where it can be from Monday to Tuesday, I'm opting in, from Tuesday to Wednesday, I'm opting out, but I'm going to defer to Director Baldwin to provide a little more color.
Good evening, just as Dr. Coleman mentioned, there's a system of accountability right now, and we would want to be able to offer that accountability for our students. And looking for that, right now our system would not be able to do that at that instance. We still would need some bit of time for us to record to say, hey, you need that opportunity to ride that bus. We need to be able to record that opportunity that we need to assign you that bus stop. And we need to have that on record that we are going to pick you up on that next day. So we need to have that buffer to be able to have record of that before we offer that service. If we had a system where we could just issue you a card that you could scan on the bus and that day we have it, yes. We're not quite there yet, but hopefully we can be. But moving to the stage where we're going to right now puts us closer to those opportunities where we could offer that in the future.
But going back to your first question, Dr. Miller, there are opportunities if there's a life change for a student and they need to move from being a car rider to a bus rider, we can make that modification. But as Director Baldwin indicated, it's not a system that would allow for us to go back and forth, every 3 days. But if a parent needed to opt in and then opt out, and we've got plenty of landing strip to be able to do that, we'll acquiesce around those opportunities for students.
I think I wanted to clarify. My question was more so around that there's already a bus stop established, and the student's car, I'm going to say, breaks down. Couldn't help it, right? So it's not that they're going back and forth, but need to get to school the next day. Is there a mechanism that they can get on that bus at that stop, because it's already an established stop that is taking students to their school?
Right, but even though the stop is there, the student has to be assigned to that stop and assigned to that bus trip. And so that's that accountability piece that the director was speaking to. So I believe it takes 72 hours to shift a student from non-bus rider to bus rider, and so we just need that time to actually assign them to a stop in a bus trip.
Mm-hmm.
Are we okay? Thank you. Board Member Brain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This will be very quick. It's not very similar to Dr. Miller's question, but semi. And I think you quite answered it. I know you said that you would be interested in developing the card system in the future, but I was just wondering if there will be just a tracking of how many students are on the bus and what exact students are assigned to that bus. That's all.
Absolutely, a simple yes.
Thank you. I think the board members covered all of my concerns. I appreciate the fact that School Max is still going to be somewhere with a lot of information in it. You're going to a new system, because I was thinking maybe you run them simultaneously, but I don't think you need to. My question is, have you given any thought to students receiving service hours to help train some parents on the new process? Just throwing that out there. So I'm done. But thank you. This was really comprehensive, and you guys, in my opinion, are doing a great job informing us of your progress that you're making.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
With this new integration. Okay? Thank you. Now we will go to the consent agenda. The chair recognizes Superintendent House to report on items 5.1 through 5.2.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. We have two proclamations that require board approval this evening. The first proclamation is 5.1, which is a proclamation for observation of National Caribbean American Heritage Month, June 2024. The second one is Proclamation 5.2 for observation of LGBTQIA plus Pride Month.
Thank you. The motion is to approve the consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Board Member Boozer-Strother.
That's me. Yes. Thank you so much. I would like to speak to the proclamation commemorating the month of June 2024 as LGBTQIA plus Pride Month in Prince George's County Public Schools. This proclamation includes a series of whereas statements that tracks PGCPS's recent history of progress of expanding resources and protective policies for LGBTQIA plus students, staff, and families, and opportunities for education and action. And a whereas that we don't have this year, but will certainly be included next year, is the whereas on the Pride and PGCPS Summit. And Superintendent House, I appreciate you speaking to that in your remarks earlier, and I want to thank you and the administration and staff leaders for their work to make this first Pride and PGCPS Summit a success. I was able to attend in Zoom this past Saturday. There were more than 200 students, staff, and families gathered to hear from speakers and PGCPS families and staff on how to support and advocate for your LGBTQIA plus child, how to access PGCPS and Prince George's County and nonprofit resources. And we learned about the Welcoming Schools program, and this was on the adult side, and the students had their own private sessions, which I'm sure they got a lot out of as well. And so I want to express my personal gratitude to administration for the event. And I do want to note that June 13th is the last day of school, which is just 9 days with students, and I would like to declare that May is also Pride Month too, so everyone can get started with the resources available for school-based activities around Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford?
Aye.
Ms. Boozer-Strother?
Aye.
Mr. Briggs?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson? Mrs. LaSalle Frazier?
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Rout?
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes?
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray?
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, the motion is adopted. Next, the chair recognizes Superintendent House to report on the fiscal year 2024 financial review and category changes. $6.1, okay.
You said 6.2?
6.1. I have 6.1. fiscal year 2024 financial review and category changes.
Okay, I'll pass it over to our Chief Financial Officer,
Yeah.
Lisa Howell, at this time.
Okay.
Yes, the information is outlined in the board action summary. I'm not sure if there's any questions. I'll be happy to take those at this time.
Board members, do you have any questions around the category changes? Then the motion is to approve the budget consent agenda item 6.1 fiscal year 2024 financial review and category changes.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Who's second?
Oh, Boozer Struthers. Seeing none, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Staff,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson, Mrs. LaSalle Frazier,
Aye.
Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, the motion, the budget consent agenda is adopted. The chair recognizes Superintendent House to report on the request to increase the legal services contract for Shaw and Rosenthal LLP.
Madam Chair, we'd be glad to answer any questions in reference to this item. This is indicated as been provided to you as well. 6.2.
Well, for the public, would you at least say the purpose? Because I don't want the public thinking we're just hiring lawyers. So I think it's appropriate.
Sure, Mrs. Howell can provide some insight.
Appreciate that.
Darnell will provide some insight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are currently defending against 4 civil actions, and we need an increase in our funding for the defense of these actions.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Board members, the motion is to approve the budget consent agenda, item 6.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson, Mrs. LaSalle Frazier,
Aye.
Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Miss Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion to adopt the consent agenda passes. For the contract for Shaw and Rosenthal LLP. Thank you. Now we will, Superintendent House for 6.4, approval of increase of the accountability limit for the Prince George's Alternative, no, I'm sorry, we pulled that. I'm sorry, we talked about that earlier. 6.5, approval of a rider of the Montgomery County contract to hire. We need to,
Madam Chair.
it's 6, yes, somebody help me clarify
That's okay.
6.4.
Yep, right before 6.5, approval of the increase of the affordability limit.
Yeah, please speak up.
6.4.
Right.
Approval of the increase of the affordability limit for the PGCPS Alternative Schools Construction Financing Phase 2. We struck 6.3, which was approval of the Blueprint Schools Phase 2 Memorandum of Understanding.
So, Madam Chair, we'd be glad to have Jason Washington to share some insight around 6.4.
I appreciate that, because let me tell you what the confusion is for me. In my annotated agenda here, it said that, we removed 6.3. Thank
Madam
you,
Chair, that's
Chief of
correct.
Staff.
You're welcome.
6.4 is still on the agenda.
That's correct.
I appreciate that. So let me start again. Approval of increase of the affordability limit for the Prince George's County Alternative Schools Contract Financing Phase 2. The chair recognizes Superintendent House to report on the approval of the increase of the affordability limit for the PGS Alternative Construction Finance Phase
Again,
2.
Thank you, Madam Chair and
Thank
board members. We'd be glad to share some insight around this if needed be. Jason Washington is here for any questions.
Yes, what you have before you is the board action summary requesting the increase of the affordability limit for the Phase 2 program. Just to orient everyone, the board approved in September our selection of the Phase 2 developer with an affordability limit of $64 million. The subsequent week, we also received a requirement from the board to execute a project labor agreement as part of that. And so what we've seen over the past few months, we have went through the E&A period, and April, per the schedule that we have, we received the guaranteed max price proposal from the developer that showed a marked increase in the base construction cost as well as financing cost associated with the lack of reduced interest rates. That GMP that we received, we've sent through 3 rounds of discussions, etc. They were required to provide explanations for every bid that they received. And the $70 million increase is at the behest of the county, OMB, since they are now responsible for paying the county's portion of the availability payment. That is their cap. And so the $70 million reflects the maximum amount of contribution, total contribution, with the county picking up roughly $42 million and the state covering 27. And so that is what you have before you, that approval that will allow the county to contribute more to ensure that Phase 2 is affordable and we're able to move forward. And I open it up for any questions.
I appreciate that, but should I have a board action summary for that in this book? I don't have it. Do you have it? Everybody has it but me? Okay. Just want to make sure I get a copy. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to make the motion. Okay, so the motion is to approve the budget consent agenda. Okay, the motion is to approve the increase for the approval of the increase of the accountability limit for the Prince George's County Alternative Schools Construction Finance Phase 2.
Second.
And it has been seconded. Is there any discussion? And I see Adam Stafford.
Thank you. I just want to gain some clarity. So the affordability limit we're saying is going from 68 million to 70 million?
It's going from 64 to 70. We
64 to 70?
Yes.
So it's an increase of 6 million?
Approximately, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And where are we on the 30% committed to MBEs and CBBs? Do we have like some commitments already, or are they still trying to secure those right now?
We don't know exactly where they are. It's their requirement at the end of this contract to abide by the percentages put in place in the contract, or there will be liquidated damages. So it is their responsibility to, at the end of the design build period, to demonstrate 30% MBE participation. If they don't, that is when we would levy any damages or fines on the developer.
So my ask is that we have some type of just ongoing monitoring of that. Like I would I would hate to get to the end of the project and then ask for that particular piece of data, just because, we are obligated as a board to uphold, those MBE commitments. And so I guess along the way, if we can have some checkpoints to know sort of where we are in terms of fulfilling that.
The developer is required to provide a MBE report every month as part of their design build report. That was true in phase 1. That would be true in phase 2. That information is evaluated by Mr. Wes Owens, our MBE coordinator, to ensure compliance. And so that is already built into the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more lights, Mrs. Barton, please call the roll. 6.4.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson. Mrs. LaSalle Frazier.
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Rout.
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes.
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, the approval of the increase of the accountability limit for the Prince George's County Alternative Schools Construction Financing Phase 2 is adopted. Now we will go to 6.5, approval of the rider of a Montgomery County contract to hire Alpha Structure LLC to electrify the Mulligan bus lot for electronic buses.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, we are trying to expand our electric buses and ensure that, we do our part in terms of being a greener county. We'd be glad the administration would to answer any questions around this at this time.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the approval of the rider of a Montgomery County contract to hire Alpha Structure LLC to electrify the Mulligan bus lot for electronic buses.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? And I see Board Member Rout.
Thanks so much, Madam Chair. Given this, given what's before us, I wanted to know, are we also going to be installing plug-in devices for electric vehicles at our school sites? I know we have it here at Sasser. I know there are other sites. So are we looking into that as well for the accessibility for our students and our teachers?
This is specifically, we've worked very closely to ensure that the grid is set up in a manner where we don't disrupt across the county. But this particular item is specifically around the Mulligan bus lot. We will continue to look for opportunities over the course of time that, of course, comes along with funding, structural changes and money. But yes, we will be looking at those opportunities, but this particular item under 6.5 is focused on the Mulligan bus lot and electrifying or have an opportunity to charge buses on that lot.
And the grid will only power to this bus lot?
Currently, after this installation happens, we want to eventually expand as we get more buses over the course of time.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, Mrs. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson. Mrs. LaSalle Frazier.
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Rout.
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes.
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, the bus lot for the electronic buses is adopted.
Thank you.
Now we will go to 6.6.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 6.6, as you all know, is related to the MOU between the Prince George's County Public Schools and the Prince George's County Educators Association. We'd be glad to answer any questions that there might be at this time.
The motion is to approve the budget consent agenda item for 6.6. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson. Mrs. LaSalle Frazier.
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Rout.
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes.
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. 9 votes in the affirmative. The MOU for the between the Prince George's County Schools and the Prince George's County Educators Association is adopted. And Superintendent House, thanks for providing the board the extra information.
Absolutely.
that the board asked for. 6.7, approval of BDO contract extension. The board recognizes Superintendent House to report on the approval.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just that, we seek approval from the board on the BDA contract extension, and glad to answer any questions or provide any additional insight if prompted.
Thank you. The motion is to approve the budget consent item 6.7, the approval of the BDO contract extension. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson. Mrs. LaSalle Frazier.
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Rout.
Abstain.
Ms. Rivera Forbes.
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye. With 8 votes in the affirmative and 1 abstention, the motion carries to approve the BDO contract extension is adopted. Okay. We will go to 7.1. New business. The chair recognizes Superintendent House to introduce the new business first reader.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I move to approve item 7.1, which is the FY25 Educational Facilities Master Plan.
Thank you. The motion is to approve the new business first reader agenda items 7.1, the fiscal year 25 Education Facilities Master Plan.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
I have my light on.
You have
but
oh,
yes,
I see the light now. Thank you. Okay, there's a question.
Thank you.
Woman
Will
Madam
we be
Staff.
having any public hearings around this?
Dr. Coleman?
Typically, we have our public hearings with respect to our CIP in the fall, not necessarily the Educational Facilities Master Plan.
Given just some of the feedback that I've received from my community and a lot of the development that's happening in Central County and just some of the burden that's placing on, for example, Flowers High School that is over capacity, I'm wondering if it's possible for us to also schedule a public hearing to receive some feedback from community members on their, and get some input from them on this plan.
We'll take a look at, some avenues that might provide, whether that may be a hearing or surveys, but we can definitely take a look at what some of those avenues could look like.
Thank you.
Seeing no other lights, I see a hand. Board Member Boozer.
Sorry. It's,
okay.
My colleague is correct. We do a public hearing on this plan. Last year, it was scheduled for May 30th, in between the board meetings.
Okay, do we want to, someone want to make a motion that we delay this or postpone it or something until there's
This is the correct order.
It is?
This is
Oh,
the
this
correct
is the order. We
Yeah,
approve it
there's
first reader and
there's
then
a
you
public
do
hearing.
the public hearing before second reader, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah, just
Can you
just
do
as a
that?
quick point of clarification.
Okay.
The approved Educational Facilities Master Plan is due to the IEC by July 1. So certainly between first and second reader, that gives us a window of opportunity, but we certainly have that deadline.
I appreciate the clarity, and thank you, board members, for the reminder. I see no more lights, so board member, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford?
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother?
Aye.
Mr. Briggs?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mrs. LaSalle Frazier?
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Rout?
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes?
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray?
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion is adopted for the fiscal year 25 Educational Facilities Master Plan, accepted as first reader. Okay. The chair recognizes Superintendent House to introduce unfinished business, second reader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to have items 8.1 through 8.3 approved. 8.1 is a memorandum of understanding between the Prince George's County Board of Education and the Greater Washington Community Foundation. 8.2 is the virtual education plan for use during prolonged states of emergency. And then 8.3 is naming of the new Glen Ridge Area Middle School.
Thank you. And since you can't move, I'll do it for you. So the motion is to approve the unfinished business as the second reader, items 8.1 through 8.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Board Member Adam Stafford.
I just wanted to thank the executive team for bringing back some of the suggestions around making the virtual learning accessible through hubs and in-person support. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, Mrs. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford?
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother?
Aye.
Mr. Briggs?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Ms. LaSalle Frazier?
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Rout?
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes?
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray?
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, the motion carries to accept 8.1 through 8.3, second reader is adopted. The chair recognizes Board Member Jonathan Briggs.
Thank you so much, Chair. Mickens Murray. On April 25th, 2024, the following policies and bylaws were approved as first reader. Revised Policy 0125, Non-Discrimination. Revised Policy 2600, Records and Documents Management Program. On behalf of the Policy and Governance Committee, I move that the policies be approved as second reader.
The motion is to approve the unfinished business as the second reader, agenda items 8.4 through 8.5. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Barton, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Adams Stafford?
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother?
Aye.
Mr. Briggs?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson? Mrs. LaSalle Frazier?
Aye.
Dr. Z. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Rout?
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes?
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray?
Aye. With 9 votes in the affirmative, the motion to approve 8.4 through 8.5 is adopted. No 9. Follow-up items. The follow-up items will be posted on board docs upon receipt. The board would like to inform the public of the following upcoming meetings. Academic Achievement Committee, May 13, 2024, 5 p.m. Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs, May 15, 2024, at 5 p.m. Board meeting, June 13, 2024, 5 p.m. Board meeting, June 27, 2024, at 5 p.m. Please continue to check the board website for updates and more information about the upcoming board meetings. There being no further business, the time is now 10:28, and the May 9, 2024 Prince George's County Board of Education meeting is adjourned. Short.